Israel's continued offensive on Gaza?
The reality is that the immediate challenge for the Israeli government is to try to retrieve their hostages. And from a military perspective, extremely difficult to do, given the way the Hamas leadership has buried themselves in there. So Israel has stated it wants the hostages back. They negotiated a deal that fell apart.
It didn't fall apart. Israel refused to move on to phase 2 of the ceasefire agreement, therefore violating this agreement. There is long-term damage that is being done to the United States' standing and credibility in the region, not to mention the long-term instability that is being created. Would you consider Israel today a strong asset or a strategic liability?
I would go with the asset without a doubt. And this is not something new. And by the way, stability in this region, come on, I've been over there for 50 years personally, and it hasn't been stable for a day that I've been there.
How much is the United States responsible for that, Admiral?
Well, you know, everybody bears some responsibility, but the reality is that we've been trying to generally provide stability, security, and to oppose those who inflict pain and damage on others.
Should the U.S. be reassessing its unconditional military support to Israel?
Well, first of all, I don't know who said it's unconditional. I certainly didn't use that. I don't think it is.
Well, it certainly looks like that, doesn't it?
No, it's been up and down over the years, and particularly over the past year. But it's a very difficult situation. This part of the world's been in turmoil for many, many centuries. Didn't start with ours. I doubt it's going to end anytime soon. It's very unfortunate, but it's symptomatic of conflicts that just don't seem to end.
If this situation does escalate into a regional war and a confrontation with Iran, is the United States ready for what comes next?
Well, I'm not sure it's going to escalate into a war, and based on my view of where Iran sits right now, if I were in Tehran, I'd be thinking pretty seriously before I lifted a finger to escalate anything. They're not in a strong position right now, and so I'm not particularly worried about that. But you know, the reality remains that Iran is the principal instigator of trouble throughout the region. And you pick the country, whether it's Yemen or Syria or Lebanon or Gaza, it's Iranian instigation that's been the cause for trouble. So,
well, some would say that the United States has actually fueled quite a bit of crises in the region. You take Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. Does the US risk making the same mistakes again if it went to Iran at the behest of Israel?
I've been in the region since the U.S. went in, and we had never really been there very much before 1979, 1980, the early 80s, and it's been very, very difficult to get extricated from the challenges. But once in, we seem to be caught up in a swirling, continual series of events. But that's the reality of this region. It's very volatile. And there are long-time enmities that predate the existence of the U.S. that are just the reality on the ground. So I think we try to make the best decisions we can, and we try to work with those who are willing to work with us.
Is the U.S. making the best decisions it can by launching airstrikes against Yemen, against the Houthis?
Well, as the former commander over there, I probably would look for some other things, but because I'm not sure that's going to be very effective. Certainly hasn't been to date. But the challenge is going to the source of the problem, and that source is Iran.
Is it sound assessment, though, to see the Houthis as merely an extension of Iran, because they have very divergent positions? The Houthis have made their attacks in the Red Sea contingent on Israel stopping its blockade of Gaza. They've been much more willing to take risks than the Iranians have. How do you assess their strength today? And can Washington really completely annihilate the Houthis as Trump has said he would?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Houthis really care much about Israel in truth, but they've been armed. They want to make sure that they stick around to rule that country. And right now, the only solid supporter they have is Iran. So they're probably going to continue to do the bidding that Iran asks.